Time and time again, you hear people stating that Starfield is going to be a bad game because it's going to be nothing but Fallout in space. When I hear this, I can't help but wonder if the Fallout series that I know and love is a series of games that exist in an alternate universe. The first Fallout received GameSpot's Best Role-Playing Game and Best Ending prize. The game was also nominated for GameSpot's Game of the Year. It also won Computer Games Magazine's Role-Playing Game of the Year award. Fallout 2 qualified as a finalist for Computer Gaming World's Best RPG. Fallout 2 also qualified for IGN's Best RPG of the Year and the Academy of Interactive Arts and Science Role-Playing Game of the Year awards, all of which were awarded to Baldur's Gate, but nonetheless that's still impressive. Also, when it comes to Fallout 2, the Metascore and the user scores were also pretty high. The Metascore was an 86 and the user score was a 9.1. Fallout 4 won Best Game of the Year at the 2016 British Academy Game Awards and still has thousands of players playing daily. Now, I know some of you are thinking, what about Fallout 76? The idea that the entire Fallout legacy should be judged by one failed installment seems to have snuck its way out of the realm of bizarre statements right into something that falsely resembles a logical analogy. I believe this is the result of something that I like to refer to as media parroting, where large members of society begin to repeat a word, phrase, or statement just because they hear it repetitiously on various forms of media. Once it's been repeated enough, it oddly becomes something that passes for common knowledge. There are many games like Fallout. Many of them involve warring factions that ask you to choose a side, and according to which side you choose, the other side may become your enemy. Usually, these games also provide the player with the choice to ignore both factions. The RPG elements will often allow the player to fine-tune their experience, romance characters, and make choices that affect the gameplay experience. Then there's the obvious survival aspect. Scavenging through rundown buildings and rough terrain have become staples of Fallout-type games. One thing that has become very popular in these types of games is to set the story in a post-apocalyptic environment. The funny thing is, The Outer Worlds is a great game that's not only like Fallout, it's like Fallout in space because it actually takes place in space on various planets. The game has Bethesda written all over it. It has other direct similarities with Starfield because it's set in the future where various locations have civil unrest and organized groups are at war with each other. The dialogue is practically a copy and paste version of Fallout's, and the video game obviously takes place in a sci-fi universe. When it comes to similarities with Fallout, Metro Exodus is a no-brainer. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic universe where people have organized under various factions and paramilitary groups that the player has the opportunity to build relationships with. It has weapons that require maintenance and spots in the game's world that contain radiation and opportunities to encounter bizarre creatures. Both Fallout and Metro Exodus unfold in post-apocalyptic worlds that were affected by nuclear war. Also, both games feature main protagonists that never speak. While the Stalker story doesn't take place in a post-apocalyptic world, you could easily confuse it with one because it takes place in an environment that was hit by the game's second Chernobyl disaster. The story has the player moving through the dreaded zone and taking out the mysterious force known as the Strelok. The game puts the player's virtual survival skills to the test as you gather helpful materials, artifacts that alter your stats, and weapons that help you fend off the zone's many monstrosities. Horizon Zero Dawn is another video game set in a post-apocalyptic world where human beings have broken up into various tribes and factions. While the story isn't similar to Fallout's, Zero Dawn shares a number of similarities. The game is a post-apocalyptic action RPG set in a future filled with encounters with human and non-human enemies. As in Fallout, you gather resources while traversing the world while at the same time fighting off various threats. And to be perfectly honest, all things considered, it wouldn't take very much imagination to tie some sort of space narrative into the story of Zero Dawn. Wasteland 2 and Wasteland 3 are two games that obviously have a lot of similarities with Fallout. The original Fallout CRPGs are considered successors to Wasteland, which was developed by Interplay and released in 1988. Both Fallout and Wasteland take place in a post-apocalyptic world. Like the original Fallout CRPGs in New Vegas, Wasteland takes place in the American Southwest, blending sci-fi and Western tropes to create a depressing and dark world. But be warned, The Wasteland games are more difficult than any game in the Fallout series. Overcoming the Wasteland's challenges is made more rewarding by a series of steep learning curves. Though these games have obvious similarities, be prepared for Wasteland's upscale in difficulty. Pioneer is an up-and-coming game set to release in 2023. Well, you know how that is, so don't hold your breath on that. But the game looks like Metro Exodus and Fallout had a romantic evening together, and Pioneer was the result. Check it out. If other developers can create games that have similarities to Fallout, and those games can go on to be considered great games, then being like Fallout in space, in my humble opinion, doesn't seem like it's such a bad idea. Especially when you consider that in Starfield's universe, whatever happened to Earth seems to be a distant memory. So obviously the stories are going to be completely different. The main story in Fallout 3 is simply about locating your father, which strangely can be achieved early in the game, and the other Fallout installments' main stories aren't much more complex than that. However, it seems Starfield's story is set to send the player on a much more complex and meaningful journey, which could explain why, according to a recent interview of Bethesda developers and Todd Howard, the dialogue options in Starfield will be much more complex than in any other projects that they've ever worked on, containing over 250,000 lines. Even the scope of the side quests are said to be like nothing else they've ever worked on. So yeah, like other successful games, Starfield may be a product that takes inspirations from Fallout, but obviously that alone doesn't mean that it's going to be a bad game. So guys, we're going to go ahead and leave it right there. Look, of course, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. Hey, I'm a big boy. I can more than take it. Also, if you get some time, share the video because YouTube's algorithm can be brutal. And as usual, guys, stay safe.